Everyone tells you to forgive. They say it's noble, they say it sets you free. But that's a lie told by the weak, to keep you weak. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something the modern world refuses to admit. Forgiveness is not a virtue, it's a vulnerability. When you forgive, you don't erase an offense, you erase fear. And once fear is gone, people will hurt you again. Enemies don't respect mercy, they respect consequences. They remember pain, not kindness. The moment you show them you can be crossed without punishment, you've trained them to betray you again, only deeper, only smarter. The truth is harsh. If you must forgive, forgive only from a position of strength, when your power is unquestionable, when your mercy terrifies because everyone knows what you could have done instead. Anything else is suicide. This is Machiavelli's darkest warning. Never forgive those who deliberately harm you. Crush them completely, or they will rise and finish what they started. Let's uncover why forgiveness is the most dangerous luxury in the game of power, and how refusing to give it can save your life. We are taught that forgiveness is noble, that it heals wounds, that it turns enemies into friends, but Machiavelli would laugh at such illusions. In politics and power, forgiveness is often not mercy, it is self-destruction. Why? Because to forgive someone who has tried to harm you is to signal weakness, and weakness invites predators. When you show mercy to an enemy who has already shown their willingness to betray you, you are giving them a second chance to destroy you. History is full of leaders who spared their enemies and paid with their lives. Julius Caesar pardoned Brutus and Caesar, thinking kindness would win their loyalty. Instead, they plunged knives into his chest. Caesar's mercy was not read as strength. It was read as hesitation, as fear. Those he forgave decided he could be overthrown. Machiavelli warns repeatedly, men are ungrateful, fickle, and quick to betray when they see advantage. If you spare someone who has plotted against you, you teach them a dangerous lesson. You teach them that your heart will overrule your head, and when people learn that, they will exploit it. To Machiavelli, forgiveness is only safe when it serves your interests. Mercy must be strategic, never sentimental. If forgiving an enemy secures your power, do it. But if forgiving them gives them time to recover and strike again, you are digging your own grave. Consider rulers who crushed rebellion with decisive force. Their enemies were destroyed and peace followed. Now consider rulers who forgave rebels, hoping to reconcile. Those rebels simply regrouped, gathered allies, and returned stronger. Mercy in such cases is not moral courage. It is political suicide. This is why Machiavelli's advice is brutally clear. If you choose to harm someone, harm them so completely that they cannot recover. Half measures, light punishments, partial forgiveness. Leave your enemies alive and angry survivors are more dangerous than defeated ones. There is another danger in reckless forgiveness. It damages your reputation. Power is not just about strength, it is about perception. If people think you are unwilling to punish betrayal, they will calculate that they can betray you and survive. Your image as a merciful leader becomes an open invitation to disloyalty. On the other hand, if people know that betrayal is met with decisive, ruthless response, they will fear to even attempt it. This is not cruelty for its own sake. It is deterrence. It is self-defense. It prevents you from ever needing to punish anyone again because your enemies know you will not hesitate. Forgiveness can work, but only under strict conditions. First, the forgiven must be completely powerless to harm you again. Second, the forgiveness must serve a purpose, winning allies or stabilizing your rule. Anything else is a gamble with your own life as the stake. Machiavelli's Italy was a world of shifting alliances, plots, and assassinations. Leaders who trusted sentiment over strategy did not last long. Mercy without calculation was not seen as noble. It was seen as naive, and naive rulers were quickly removed. The truth is harsh. Not everyone deserves forgiveness. Some people must be neutralized, not pardoned. Some threats must be eliminated, not appeased. A single dangerous man, left alive out of misplaced compassion, can destroy years of work, topple empires, and end lives. When you forgive, you must be certain it strengthens you. If it weakens you even slightly, it is not mercy, it is suicide. Machiavelli's lesson is not to be cruel for pleasure. It is to be realistic about human nature. People remember slights more than kindness. They repay weakness with betrayal. If you must choose between being loved and being feared, Machiavelli advises, choose fear because fear lasts. Forgiveness may feel righteous, but if it invites danger, it is not a virtue. It is a fatal mistake. And in the unforgiving game of power, fatal mistakes are rarely forgiven. Mercy feels powerful. When you forgive someone who has wronged you, you feel above them, calm, generous, untouchable. Society praises this. Religion blesses it. Stories glorify it. We are told that forgiveness heals wounds, transforms enemies into friends, and turns weakness into strength. But Machiavelli would tell you this is a dangerous fantasy. Mercy may feel noble, but in the brutal game of power, it is almost always a mistake. Why? Because mercy relies on a false assumption that people will repay your kindness with loyalty. In reality, people repay kindness with ambition. When you spare an enemy, you do not remove his desire to harm you. You remove his fear of doing so. Machiavelli saw this in every Italian city-state of his time. Princes who pardoned traitors believed they were showing strength, but those traitors plotted again because they now believed their prince lacked the will to punish. Mercy, instead of neutralizing danger, simply delayed it. Consider how humans truly behave. We do not remember kindness the way we remember injury. A man who offends you will not see your forgiveness as a gift. He will see it as proof that you were too weak to strike back. He will not feel gratitude. He will feel contempt. And contempt is far more dangerous than hatred. The illusion of noble mercy rests on hope. You hope your enemy will change. You hope your generosity will inspire loyalty. You hope your rival will realize that you spared him and will now protect you in return. But hope is not a strategy. To Machiavelli, the politics of hope is suicide. People are not transformed by your mercy. They are emboldened by it. And those who once tried to destroy you will almost always try again, because now they know you hesitate. There is also a deeper problem with mercy. It invites opportunists. When others see you forgive betrayal, they begin to wonder if betrayal is safe. If one traitor can walk away untouched, why not try their luck, too? Your reputation for kindness becomes an open door for more treachery. Machiavelli offers a grim but consistent lesson. If you must harm an enemy, crush him completely. Do not wound him, and then forgive. Do not humiliate him, and then hope he will serve you. Half measures create dangerous men who have both a reason to hate you and the ability to act on that hatred. Look at history. Julius Caesar pardoned many of the senators who had opposed him, believing mercy would unite Rome. Those same men stabbed him to death in the Senate chamber. Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's great example of cunning leadership, never made that mistake. When conspirators rose against him, he executed them swiftly and publicly. No second chances, no illusions. The noble image of mercy appeals to our ego. We like to see ourselves as righteous, forgiving, above petty revenge. But power is not about feeling righteous. Power is about survival. And survival requires clear eyes, not comforting illusions. Ask yourself this. When has mercy ever truly disarmed a rival? Did they ever become a loyal friend? Or did they simply bide their time? The truth is uncomfortable. Forgiveness may bring peace in personal matters, but in politics, business, and war, it almost always plants the seeds of your downfall. Machiavelli's warning is not about cruelty for its own sake. It is about understanding human nature as it really is, not as we wish it to be. He strips away the lies we tell ourselves about honor and virtue. He reminds us that when power is at stake, men are loyal only when it serves their interest, or when they fear the cost of betrayal. The illusion of noble mercy is seductive because it feels good, but feeling good is not the same as being safe. Mercy without caution is weakness disguised as virtue, and weakness once exposed is never forgiven. Machiavelli would tell you this: spare an enemy, and you create a future threat. Destroy an enemy, and you destroy the threat forever. The choice is yours, but only one of those choices guarantees your survival. Mercy is often praised as a sign of strength. Leaders who forgive are called wise, noble, enlightened. But Machiavelli cuts through this illusion. In the raw language of power, mercy is rarely seen as greatness. It is seen as hesitation, and hesitation is fatal. When you choose mercy, you believe you're displaying control. You believe people will admire your calm and respect your generosity. But human nature does not work this way. People do not interpret mercy as a gift. They interpret it as a gap in your armor. Machiavelli understood this well. He spent his life watching rulers rise and fall, generals win and lose, republics crumble under betrayal. The lesson was always the same. People fear punishment far more than they feel gratitude for forgiveness. When you punish swiftly, your enemies learn a lesson. When you forgive, they learn something else, that you can be defied without consequence. This is why mercy is so dangerous. It teaches others how far they can push you. A single pardon becomes a signal, not just to the man you forgave, but to everyone watching. It says this ruler is reluctant to strike, and in politics reputation is everything. If you are feared, no one dares to test you. If you are loved but not feared, your allies will test your patience, and your enemies will test your defenses. Look at how people actually respond to power. They do not admire those who let rivals walk free. They admire those who act decisively. In a world of uncertainty, decisive action commands respect. Mercy, unless extremely rare and calculated, looks like uncertainty. It tells your followers you're soft. It tells your enemies you can be challenged. Machiavelli gives a simple formula. If you must injure someone, do it so thoroughly that you never need to fear revenge. If you choose to forgive, do it only when it strengthens you, not when it makes you look weak. But how often does forgiveness actually make you stronger? Almost never. Think of Julius Caesar. He pardoned the very senators who had once taken up arms against him. He believed mercy would heal old wounds and bind Rome to him in gratitude. Instead, those men saw an emperor who feared bloodshed. They conspired again, and they killed him. His mercy was interpreted not as greatness, but as weakness, and weakness invites the knife. Contrast this with Cesare Borgia Machiavelli's model of ruthless leadership. When conspirators plotted against him, he did not forgive them. He executed them immediately, in public, with theatrical precision. The message was clear. Betrayal will be punished, and punished completely. No one mistook that for weakness. Cesare was feared, and while fear may not make people love you, it keeps them from plotting your death. Mercy can also destroy discipline within your own circle. If soldiers, allies, or employees see you spare those who break your rules, they begin to wonder if the rules mean anything at all. Your generosity doesn't inspire loyalty. It breeds opportunism. People start thinking, if I step out of line, he'll forgive me too. The truth is that mercy has value only when it's rare, deliberate, and strategic, not when it comes from emotion or habit. If you show it too freely, it becomes a signal to the world that you lack the will to enforce consequences. And once people sense that, they lose fear. When fear disappears, respect soon follows. This is Machiavelli's brutal wisdom. It is safer to be feared than loved, because fear is predictable. Love is fragile, conditional, and easily lost. Mercy depends on love. Punishment creates fear, And when survival is at stake, fear is the sturdier foundation. So when you think you're being noble by forgiving, ask yourself, how will others read this act? Will they see a strong leader so secure he can afford to spare an enemy, or will they see a ruler who flinches at conflict? In most cases, the latter is true. Mercy feels moral, but in power politics, it sends a dangerous signal. It tells the world you are unwilling to do what is necessary. It tells your enemies you hesitate, and hesitation, once revealed, invites attack. Machiavelli would put it plainly: punish once, and you make an example. Forgive once, and you make a precedent. Which message do you want to send? Most people think revenge is personal, emotional, even petty. But to Machiavelli, revenge is not about feelings, it is about survival. In the brutal logic of power, revenge is not payback, it is prevention. When you strike back at an enemy, you are not just settling a score, you are sending a message to everyone else. This is the cost of betrayal. It is not about rage, it is about deterrence. If people believe they can harm you without consequence, they will. If they believe you will destroy anyone who crosses you, few will dare to try. Machiavelli understood this from watching Italy's constant wars and conspiracies. When leaders forgave their rivals, those rivals regrouped. When leaders crushed them without mercy, the rest of the world fell silent. Fear is faster than gratitude, and it lasts longer. Revenge works not because it satisfies your emotions, but because it rewrites the future. When an enemy is punished harshly, others think twice before plotting. It is not cruelty for its own sake. It is insurance against future threats. Mercy, on the other hand, invites repetition. If one traitor is spared, another traitor will rise. If one rebellion is tolerated, another rebellion will follow. Consider Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's great example of decisive power. When Borgia conquered a rebellious province, he sent his lieutenant Ramiro di Orco to impose order with brutal force. Once the region was pacified, Borgia executed di Orco in public, cutting him in half and displaying his corpse. Why? Not out of anger, not because Borgia hated him. It was a signal to the people. I reward loyalty, but I will crush tyranny, even in my own name. This act of revenge against his own servant terrified everyone. No one doubted Borgia's resolve again. Now compare that to leaders who show leniency. Julius Caesar famously pardoned Brutus and Caesar, believing mercy would heal old wounds. It did not. They read his kindness as fear. They sharpened their daggers and murdered him on the Senate floor. Caesar's mistake was simple. He thought forgiveness would earn loyalty. Machiavelli would say Caesar should have destroyed them completely. Mercy left him surrounded by men who believed they could kill him and escape punishment. Revenge does more than eliminate a single rival. It shapes how others calculate their choices. A punished enemy becomes a warning. A spared enemy becomes an invitation. In politics, reputation is everything. If people know you are ruthless, they are less likely to test you. If they think you are merciful, they will gamble on your hesitation. This is why Machiavelli argues it is not enough to hurt an enemy lightly. You must hurt them so thoroughly that they cannot recover. A mild punishment leaves hope of revenge. A complete punishment leaves only fear. As he writes, men must be either caressed or destroyed, for they will avenge themselves for small injuries, but cannot do so for great ones. Revenge, then, is not about satisfying your pride. It is about removing danger. If someone betrays you, and you respond with partial measures, they live to fight again. If you respond decisively, you end the threat permanently and send a clear signal to anyone else who might be tempted. Modern politics, business, and even personal relationships show this same pattern. People who enforce consequences swiftly rarely face repeated betrayal. People who tolerate disloyalty face it over and over. The principle is timeless. Firm retaliation keeps order. Mercy without calculation invites chaos. Machiavelli's lesson is hard but clear. Do not harm someone unless you are prepared to finish the job. Half measures make enemies angry but leave them alive. And a living enemy will always look for a chance to strike back. Complete revenge removes that chance entirely. So when you are wronged, do not ask, "Do I feel like taking revenge?" Ask instead, "What message will my response send?" If you respond weakly, you encourage more attacks. If you respond decisively, you prevent them. This is not about hatred. It is about power. To Machiavelli, revenge is not cruelty. It is strategy. A single ruthless act can prevent 1,000 future betrayals. And that is the cold arithmetic of survival. Machiavelli wrote for princes, generals and rulers of Renaissance Italy. But his warnings about forgiveness are just as relevant today. You don't need a crown on your head to understand that misplaced mercy can ruin you. Whether you're running a business, leading a team, or simply navigating personal relationships, the same rule applies. Forgiveness must be strategic, not sentimental. First, understand human nature. Machiavelli observed that people are quick to take advantage of kindness when there are no consequences. If someone undermines you once and you let it slide, you've told them you're safe to cross again. In modern terms, this happens in workplaces, friendships, and politics every day. When people see you won't defend yourself, they stop respecting you. Second, separate emotion from judgment. Forgiveness feels good because it seems noble, but feelings do not protect you. A rival you forgive may thank you to your face, only to wait for the perfect moment to harm you again. Machiavelli's advice is not to be bitter or paranoid. It's to be rational. Before forgiving, ask, does this strengthen my position, or does it give someone a chance to hurt me again? Third, learn to make your mercy conditional. You don't have to crush everyone who wrongs you, but you should never forgive for free. When someone has crossed you, forgiveness should only come with clear terms. Loyalty, repayment, or visible proof they are no longer a threat. In business, that might mean keeping a close eye on someone who betrayed your trust, rather than giving them the same freedom as before. In politics, it might mean sidelining opponents instead of allowing them to regroup. Fourth, project strength, not softness. People respect consistent consequences. When your actions show that betrayal carries a cost, you won't need to punish as often. Why? Because people will think twice before testing you. Machiavelli understood that it's better to prevent treachery than to keep forgiving it. Power is maintained not by endless battles, but by deterring battles in the first place. Finally, know when to remove threats completely. This doesn't mean physical harm. It means cutting ties cleanly. In personal life, that could be ending a toxic relationship instead of trying to fix it through endless forgiveness. In leadership, it could mean firing someone who's undermining you rather than giving them repeated chances. Half measures create lingering enemies. Firm action removes them. Applying Machiavelli's warning doesn't make you cruel. It makes you clear. Mercy is valuable only when it serves your long-term goals. Forgive when it strengthens you. But if forgiveness leaves you exposed, it isn't virtue. It's self-sabotage. And that's Machiavelli's lesson for today's world. Protect your position first, and let your compassion serve your strategy, not override it. If you lead with your heart alone, someone else will gladly take your head. If you found this breakdown useful and want more hard truths about power, strategy, and human nature, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Machiavelli never forgave his enemies.